Hello and welcome to the USAID Asia Counter-Trafficking In-Person Summit from Evidence to Action hosted by Winrock International. My name is Am and I will be your technical facilitator for today. You are at the session titled Gender-Based Violence in Migrant Communities. We will begin in just a moment here, but before we get started, we want to cover a few technical features available for you today. Today, we are using Zoom meetings to enable as much interactivity as possible. Your participation via chat is highly encouraged, and our team will work to acknowledge and address as many of the comments and questions that you have as much as possible throughout today's session. To help us acknowledge you and your questions and inputs, please rename yourself to your name and your organization by clicking the participants button at the bottom of your Zoom window, hovering your mouse over your name, and clicking more, and then clicking rename. I will paste these instructions in the chat as well, just for your reference. This meeting will be recorded, so unless you are a speaker or a moderator, please keep your camera off unless you are invited to speak in order to help everyone have smooth connection today. Please continue the conversation we have today on our conference community in Microsoft Teams and spark further conversations on social media using the hashtags WinrockE2A and Evidence to Action. Once again, you're at the session titled Gender-Based Violence in Migrant Communities. We are now ready to get started. I'm going to hand the floor over to Ms. Nodira, Country Coordinator at Regional Safe Migration in Central Asia Project at Winrock International. Nodira, thank you so much. The floor is now yours.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники данной сессии. Большое спасибо, что нашли время и присоединились, за ваш интерес. Сегодня в данной сессии также со мной будет Мирим Балатбаева, которая является специалистом по мониторингу и оценке нашего проекта. Она нам сегодня поможет в озвучивании всех вопросов, предложений, которые вы будете, мы надеемся, активно писать в чат. Я бы хотела рассказать кратко о нашем проекте и целях сегодняшней сессии, но прежде чем переходить к такой нелегкой теме, у меня к вам небольшой вопрос, который совершенно не имеет отношения к сессии, просто немножко отвлечься.
Really about the session, but all general question. I would like to ask Em to put the questions.
Yes, the questions will be on in one moment. Okay, the poll has been launched for the first question.
Thank you. Первый вопрос. Какую группу вы представляете? ННО, Академия, университет, исследовательский?
What group do you represent? NGO, non-governmental organization, if it's academics? Are you from government structure? Are you from international organization? Are you from mass media, or you're researcher or expert? We already see the results. We can see that half of the participants have already voted. Let's wait a bit more. I can see that most of the organization representatives are representatives of NGOs and international organizations, and also we have one expert. Very nice. Can we move to the next poll question?
Yes, we will move to the next poll question. Okay, the next poll question has been launched.
Почему вы решили присоединиться к данной сессии?
Why did you decide to attend to this session? Are you interested in this topic and would like to contribute to discussions? Are you one of the speakers? Networking opportunities and etc.
Всем большое спасибо. Похоже.
Thank you very much for everyone. Seems like most of people who are here, they want to learn something new and who would like to apply to their research, and they're interested in this topic as a professional research field. And please, can you move forward with the question?
Yes, absolutely.
I have I had this question in my mind because I was watching
Хотелось бы
a
задать
movie,
вопрос. Не могли бы в чате написать одним словом, если бы была возможность путешествовать на
a
машине
movie Back to the Future. Could you answer in the chat? Would you like to go to the past or to the future? Can you just in chat write, just type it? Would you like to go to past or future? Please be active, open the chat and write future or past.
Будущее, будущее. Еще какие ответы у нас есть?
So we can have here future, future, future,
Угу.
future, future.
Пишут будущее.
So most of the people are writing future.
Будущее, где есть вакцина.
And we even have a participant who says that he would like to go or she would like to go to into the future with the vaccine. I can see that most of people, I would say even all the people say future. Me personally also would like to go to the future. First of all, this is um, more about the gender equality, about when the gender equality will start. Can you please start my slides?
Yes, absolutely. Please give me one moment. Thank you.
Проект «Безопасная миграция в Центральной
So
Азии» запущен в прошлом году
Safe Migration,
при финансовой поддержке Агентства США по международному
Safe Migration in Central Asia was launched last year by the Windrock International and USAID. The main idea of this is the regional support in the region to limit the human trafficking, to combat the human trafficking, the rehabilitation, and etc. Can we have the next slide?
Can you put on? Thank you. Качественным вместе с тем одной из задач
Also, at the same time, the target of the project is to promote the gender equality and to combat human trafficking. The most important problem as of now is the human trafficking, and it's also very active and very topical in Uzbekistan.
Can we go to next slide?
Can we go to next slide, please? And today we are raising the issues of gender-based violence, and we have three speakers today. First speaker is Ms. Shirin Rashidova, who is a chairperson of NGO called Nihol. We have Ms. Nina Kasyuk, chairperson of Damytyr NGO from Kazakhstan, and Ms. Nasifa Kamalova, who is chairperson of the Istiklal Avladi NGO from Uzbekistan. And from different standpoints, we would like to see this situation. The gender-based violence creates the human migration and trafficking. Violence in her, when it happens in her own motherland, in her own country, creates the escape from the country. And unfortunately, very often these are these are victims of a house, home violence, and very often they are wives of the migrants who already left the country. They are not being protected, and they have become the victims of the physical and psychological violence. And that these all reasons push into the migration. And then in the migration, they also have they face the violence. And today we will talk about migration and violence, not only in the family, but also the violence from the employer. And very often it ends up to be sexual exploitation and gender-based violence. Usually is a result of human trafficking of women who've been sold for sexual exploitation. And now, as a result of the spread of coronavirus, now we're hearing a lot of gender-based violence in migrant communities when women are being left behind, when women are being locked uh, in the families or in the organizations with their employers. And unfortunately, we hear a lot of cases of the home violence. And one of the important aspects that me personally face every day, and many representatives of NNO face, is that there are not many searches going on in this regard. In order to have these programs, we don't have anything to rely on. We don't have any evidence-based programs. Especially, this is very hard, complicated in our regions. And we would like to talk about this aspect today. First, I would like to give the floor to the first speaker, Ms. Shirin Afzalovna Rashidova. She is a chairperson of NGO. And Ms. Shirin Rashidova, please share your opinion on this in this regard about the home violence victims. Good afternoon, dear participants, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for inviting me to participate, to tell about this topic and to represent our organization. I would like to ask for my presentation, please. So, the Center for Development and Support of Initiatives, NIHOL, is a non-governmental, non-profit organization is being launched in 2003. We have got our certificate of registration in 2006, and we've been fully functioning since 2015. Can we have next slide, please? Next slide, please. So the main objectives of our center are comprehensive assistance to the development and support of initiatives of citizens, especially young people, women, and disabled people, in particular in rural population, uh, use of rights and freedoms and construction of civil society, development of democratization and progress. Next slide, please. We work in 4 different areas. So the first one, our center conducts its activities under the 4 different areas. First is the youth program, second is female programs. When we talk about the youth program, we work in Tashkent region, and we conduct a lot of informational seminars, program campaigns. We do youth camps. We also work with the agency on volunteering in Tashkent region. We have the second area is the female program, which includes psychological support, information support, educational support, legal support. And when we talk about legal support, 2 years ago we had the provision about the female rights, and we have already translated it into Uzbek. So this is all about the legal support. And now we're adopting that provision with the Ministry of Justice. And after several days, we can distribute that appendix, that provisions further. And we believe that we are capable to provide legal assistance to females. And that's why many females, they address the lawyers. The third one is the program for people with disabilities and their families. In this area, our focus are the disabled women, single mothers or mothers with disabled kids, and we provide technical assistance and legal assistance. And the last program, which is the youngest program among all of the programs that we provide, is the program to prevent cases of illegal migration and human trafficking. We have conducted more than 5 projects that are focused on preventing the human trafficking, rehabilitation, reintegration, and support, comprehensive support, psychological, legal, and financial support for the victims. The next slide, please. During the pandemics, when we had the lockdown, with the national movement of Yuksalish, we have addressed to non-governmental organizations. Can we have the next slide, please? How NGOs can provide, can help to those who are in isolation. Because during lockdown, we could not go anywhere, the connection was lost. And then we have addressed to all the psychologists, and we have created a psychological help bot, which is called Psychologic Maslahat. And at that time, we had more than 100 psychologists who have supported us. And now we have even more psychologists who provide free help to people in a critical situation, including victims of violence and human trafficking victims. And we know that this service of this psychologist is not cheap in reality. So up to date, we have 30 volunteer psychologists, and many psychologists, some of the psychologists left us because they started their regular work now. Up to date, there are more than 3,000 applicants and about 700 regular subscribers. And we have assisted more than 1,700 women, and we are moving forward. So and I would like to underline that our bot, not only females have addressed our bot, and we had a lot of wives of the migrants who addressed us. And the wives of the migrants who have addressed us, they were asking us to help not only psychologically, but also financially, because their husbands were left without jobs, and the wives were left here alone. And very often they were humiliated by their in-laws. Because husband could not send enough money, in-laws would be humiliating their daughter-in-law because their son is not being able to send the money. So we were trying to help all these people, and during and also we helped to this daughter-in-laws to leave the house and go to her parents, because they would not be allowing, in-laws would not be allowing this girl to go to her parents. So this is what we do. And our organization also works on a lot of psychological projects. And now we are preparing teach more than 30 volunteers. We're preparing the program of winter camp on human trafficking, which will be Human Trafficking 2020 or 2021. And this is our target. We're working on this. And together with our partners, with the Commission on Combating the Human Trafficking, we are planning to implement more programs. Also, I would like to add that our organization this year has supported vulnerable migrants. We have supported of the citizens of the Republic of Ghana and with the Hakimiyat of Tashkent and MOI, we have sent them back to Ghana because they were sent here. They were with the fake information. They came here and they were cheated. So we helped them to send back. So Uzbekistan is not also a country sending making the human trafficking, but also accepting the victims of human trafficking. So, Miss Sharon, you have helped, assisted 1,700 women. This is a huge number, but I'm more afraid to understand how many people wouldn't find you and wouldn't ask for help. Shirin Kamalova, thank you very much for your innovative approach. And as far as I know, we have another NGOs, international organizations. Michael Pompeo is here. And I think that this experience would be interesting here. Can you share? Can you share your experience about how you opened this line, which was acting for 24 hours? What are the main applications that you get in this area? When Yükseliş has addressed us with this initiative, we thought that for the psychologists, for the team of psychologists that we have, it will not be much problem, but we were thinking, how can we do it? Also, we had people.
Честно говоря, мы боялись, что никто не откликнется. Мы боялись оказаться одними, там, 2-3 психолога. Мы вот этого очень боялись, потому что, ну,
we asked for help because we were afraid that the psychologists can leave it at some point and there will be only 2-3 psychologists left and we will not have enough capacity to work on it. But we
многие группы,
we talked to many groups, to many channels, and we had more than 100 psychologists, as I said. It was not only psychologists from Tashkent, but also from all over Uzbekistan. And the most interesting thing is that
за границу, наши отечественники, которые из Европы, например, из Дании нам писали, из Норвегии, с Австралии были
also colleagues. We had even psychologist colleagues who would address us from Europe, trying to support us when it comes to the panical attacks and etc. They were trying to support us by providing their assistance, by offering their assistance. And we also had Zoom meetings of psychologists. And then we worked out the principles of work, because each and every psychologist had his own his
we have
own
to actually respond to this
principle of
person
work. But
faster. So
if
there are principles.
each and every psychologist will
So
follow
when there's
his
a question,
principle, it might not be
so
enough
we
to
expect for the first three answers for this.
to cope with
And
all
then
the applications. So we
when
have worked the
вопрос, он
Yes.
более правильный, потому что все-таки там есть
and
профессионалы,
we could we had a lot of professional
своя методика, да, работы
professional
с обратившимися.
psychologists, and we gave equal opportunity to work. And then the technical, we had a technical employee who would be distributing the applications to psychologists. We also had translators, because we had the problem with the translation, because some people would reply in English or in Russian and the application would be in Uzbek. We were also working on the possible outcomes of the psychological block that are existing. So we had a big.
Еще один такой вопрос. Вы вообще первые были на «но», от которого я услышала о такой проблеме, как о таком аспекте, как то, что я сегодня озвучила, что гендерное насилие является фактором, выталкивающим женщин в миграцию. Я от вас впервые услышала об этих проблемах невесток и свекровей, что пары, поженившись в долгах, вынуждены покрывать долги за свадьбу, мужчина уезжает в миграцию, здесь женщина, молодая невестка остается, становится жертвой физического, психологического насилия со стороны свекрови, и это ее вынуждает тоже ехать вслед за своим мужем. Это вы буквально года 2 назад подняли этот вопрос, от вас я это слышала. А как сегодня с этим состоит дело? Стало ли больше таких случаев, меньше таких случаев? Вот именно как выталкивающий фактор, что вы можете сказать о
There are more of such cases, or I mean, what can you say about the gender violence? Well, we can say that yes, there are more, given that we are continuously conducting monitoring and analysis of our requests and also inquiries by women through the Telegram and also the hotline. So we have the psychologists and also lawyers. So it does exist, and so it's growing.
The number
because particularly in the period of pandemic and the lockdown, that became particularly acute, because many daughters-in-laws and the wives were calling, and they said that they are in the situation, the husband is there and the kids and her are here, and so we try to come back. So in the same family, they were not accepting the girl back, so the psychologist worked, and Hakimiyat and the deputy Hakim of Tashkent Oblast, they really helped. And also, so these 3 women, we transported them to their own parents, because the situation was in the family was very acute, and particularly it was because of the mother-in-law, and it was up to even physical violence, like mothers-in-laws were beating their daughters-in-law just because the sons are not sending money. Why? I mean, they're eating so much. I mean, the kids, I mean, even trying to lock the fridge, like the mother-in-law put a lock on the fridge, saying that you'll eat when I allow you. I mean, they had small kids. So have you heard about the situation? Yes, I mean, so there has been such increase. Yeah, it's very sad to hear that. It's incredibly sad. Thank you so much, Rina Avzalovna. So I was watching the time, and we need to make it. I mean, we need to talk to the other speakers. Please join the other speakers as well. Next speaker is familiar with the subject. I mean, he has hands-on experience. That person works at a shelter and is a psychologist, and
социальную помощь жертвам домашнего насилия, жертвам гендерного насилия.
And is the coordinator of the number of programs to combat and prevent violence, domestic violence. Please, you have the floor. Thank you so much, everyone. Good afternoon. Our organization represents the north of Kazakhstan, Kostanay region of Kazakhstan. That's the border area where the migrants not only come to us, but also they use transit. And also we accept those migrants who have any prohibitions. And so they get stuck here, and then we send them to Central Asia. So our organization works on supporting the victims of trafficking in persons, supporting the migrants as well. So we work here with migrants. Well, we already have been doing it for 5 years, and notably, in Kazakhstan, there are no shelters where the migrants would, who turned out to be the victims of gender violence or human trafficking, and they are not supported by the government. Entire support we have offered was supported by IOM, International Organization for Migration, to support these migrants. And if I were given the opportunity, I could show you the presentation. To show you the presentation about the study which was done, which was conducted in the framework of the USAID project on the impact of COVID.
Я надеюсь, экран видно, да? Да, видно, Нина Борисовна. Сейчас я сделаю, да, я
Nina Borisovna, thank you.
чтобы сразу это было сделано.
So it was done. This study was offered to me by Windrock International, who is in Kazakhstan, and I wanted to focus on women because women are part of the migrants if the migrants were only men before. So that study that we have conducted in 2019 on the border, it showed to us that women actually go for migration. Not only they go for their husbands, but they themselves, they go out with their kids. So which makes them even more vulnerable in migration, as they are responsible not only for themselves, but also for their small kids that they're taking with them. This study was sent to all regions of Kazakhstan, and it covered 350 persons, of which 150 were women, and we showed that there were women from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. Women from Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, they were more accessible than women from Tajikistan, as they are, whereas Uzbek women and also the Kyrgyz women are more accessible, and they are more available and more open for the study which was conducted in Kazakhstan. So we looked at how the quarantine, the lockdown, what impact it had on women who are in migration, who are migrant workers. And so this study was done in August, and we see that many women, numerous women, didn't have work, jobs at the time of the study, and also didn't have any work to do during lockdown. I mean, particularly of the very strict lockdown we had in Kazakhstan. So what problems the migrant women encountered in the quarantine? It was the lack of income. Many of them did not have work, although they got used to migration, and because they were working, supporting families and sending money for their families to Central Asian countries. They didn't have food, they didn't have the means for personal safety and protection, and also safe homes, because only 2 or 3 persons said they didn't have connection or contact with their family members. But main issue was obviously the lack of income and lack of food. Yeah, so looking into the issues of safety of migrant women, whether they felt themselves safe. And notably, about 10% of these women said that they felt unsafe in Kazakhstan. And you can actually see that, again, women from Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, I mean, they are women who are working more in Kazakhstan because women from Tajikistan, they sit home, they make food. Very few of them actually work at all. And they migrate following their husbands and helping their husbands while in migration. Women from Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, they demonstrate that they do work, but they feel unsafe. And many of them didn't want to talk about it at all. And when we started asking from whom they experience, I mean, who is the perpetrating violence against them, and most of them said that it's perpetrated by the employers and also Kazakh citizens. So employers are the Kazakh citizens who, and they're encountering with violence from the Kazakh citizens. Now, if you look across regions, and you'll see that there are unsafe areas such as South Kazakhstan. And there they had indicated, well, I didn't show that slide, and they were saying that in the southern parts of Kazakhstan, attitudes of Kazakh citizens towards migrants is not good.
И намного хуже иногда относятся. Северные регионы относятся, отличаются более гостеприимным.
So, whereas in other regions, people are more hospitable and more humane treatment towards migrants, as here they feel themselves much safer. So we are talking about how, to what extent they are encountering violence in Kazakhstan, as we have been supporting them, the victims of human trafficking, for the last few years. Among all the victims that we have repatriated of those migrants who turned out to be the victims, there were only 5% women.
Поэтому здесь, конечно, нужно говорить о том,
we had only 5% and the rest were men. That's why we need.
Извините. We somehow hear Indira.
Okay, I will make sure we can stop that. Please give me one moment.
Можно я продолжу?
Да. Нина, вот именно вопросы насилия были ли затронуты в данном исследовании?
Да, в этом исследовании и были затронуты насилие и нарушение прав, и насилие, и вот все основные вопросы были затронуты.
Yes, we had the issues of violence, about humiliation and etc. But for this presentation, I'm just providing a little piece of that research. The research was very big, and we believe that this research can show the comparison of the migrants between these countries in the Central Asia. It's actually this research gives the security, the safety of female migrants, not only in Kazakhstan or in Uzbekistan, but overall safety of women. This is definitely the research is more based on Kazakhstan, but it also shows the well-being of other women. Since we are located in the northern northern region, together with international organizations for migration, we provide the humanitarian aid, we help with the documents, we help to repatriate, we help with integration, when we help the person to organize his entrepreneurial activity. We help to the victims of human trafficking. And I would like to show that there is a project of International Organization for Migration, how we were helping the families by buying the products. We would find the most vulnerable group and help them, support them, because they never had they were never alone. They had always kids with them. On the first picture, you can see women with 3 kids. On the second picture, you can see a single mother with 2 kids. And definitely, she cannot come back to Uzbekistan because she has no relatives in Uzbekistan, so she decided to stay in Kazakhstan, and she's migrant. And the third woman, she is being pregnant and she has no work, no possibility to work because she is already ready to give a birth, and her husband was also migrant. So this is all about migrants, and the help we provided to migrants during the lockdown. And we were providing not only financial or technical assistance, but also the educational and legal assistance. And if in Kazakhstan our people could get some money or address to medical organizations, the migrants usually don't have any opportunities, any possibility to address. That's why I can say that in Kazakhstan, most of the people who are the citizens are saved, while the migrants were part of the vulnerable layer of the population. And if we look at the borders and how much problems we had at the problems when we had 3-4 thousand migrants trying to cross the border, and the lack of the primitive conditions, sanitary conditions, no food, no money, all of it were bringing to the high aggressive attitudes. Nina Borisovna, did we have any cases of the gender gender-based violence at the borders as a result of this trafficking at the border, result of this jam at the border? Definitely, most probably there was some violence, but unfortunately, those facts are not being registered, and most of the time, those facts are not being anyhow recorded and fixed. That's why we cannot really conclude that there were cases, but most probably there were. And we had the psychologist and the legal expert working with the migrants who are stuck at the borders. And the local representatives of police, unfortunately, would not register those cases because it's not really under their responsibilities, and they are not the citizens of Kazakhstan, so they would not really care much. And I guess it's also about people who would not like to address, right? Yes, it's also about the people who would not address and search for the fair court. Yes, definitely we have a corruption, we have a red tape that brings the situation of no recording. Nina Borisovna, you have mentioned about the psychological help to the migrants. What are the problems that you faced? What are the issues that you faced during provision, offering of the psychological help? Did you have issues of trust? For example, the people of Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, who were open to work. People were open to work, but what issues? Definitely, the first issue is the language barrier, because we we try to provide the help on the language that is needed. For example, if the applicant is speaking on some particular language, we would be trying to provide the help on the language that he needs. So I would say that whenever we speak on a language of a migrant, his trust level to us increases. So the first is the language barrier. And when a person is unfortunately stuck in the corner with all his border, he always willing to get a help. He's searching for help. He's in need on the help. So I cannot say that we had a really trust issue, because most for the migrants, it really depends whether they have families or not, because very often if a person doesn't have a family, he's much more stable. And when a migrant has kids and he sees his kids looking at him with hungry eyes asking for food, then a person loses his stability, and person is ready to work anywhere with any at any conditions. And that's something that creates the problem, because that's something when a person becomes much more vulnerable and unstable. That's the biggest issue. Thank you very much, Nina Borisovna. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. We have to finish your presentation. Thank you very much. Miss Nazifa Kamalova, I would like uh, to start with your presentation. Um, Ms. Nazifa Kamalova will talk about the gender-based violence in the migrant communities with her NGO, Istiklal Avladı. I had one case that I wanted to discuss with you today, and I would try to spend more time on that case. So my name is Nazifa Kamalova. I work for Istiklal Avlodi NGO, which was launched in 2003. And the first area of our work was always the gender-based violence. And then when we understood that there is a strict collaboration or cooperation with the human trafficking, then we started working on human trafficking. Also, we do rehabilitation and reintegration of the vulnerable layers of the population, the victims of human trafficking and vulnerable migrants, home-based violence victims. We also do the direct assistance to the vulnerable layers of the population, legal, psychological, and social support. We also combat to the extremism and radicalism. We support women who are vulnerable because they have kids, and we try to rehabilitate and reintegrate them. We um, as a additional as an additional action, we also prevent on the AIDS, HIV, HIV distribution, spread of HIV infection. In 2019, our center has received a government order to provide assistance to victims of domestic violence during the pandemic, and we have created the shelter. More than 92 women victims were assisted in providing the shelter. 321 consultations were given by a hotline, and 2 criminal cases were initiated against the aggressors, and more than 11 rapists were fined. And they and 4 victims of the gender-based violence who have suffered the violence from their own husbands who were migrants abroad, and the wives came back here. 4 of those women were also supported, and they got the legal assistance to the cases were initiated against aggressors And this year we also supported women and got helped them to get six apartments for a living. And the factor was that they have kids and they don't have place to live and they have aggressor husbands. And the
устроены и оплачивать квартиры. Но мы добились бесплатной выдачи.
And in Uzbekistan, unfortunately, we have the situation when women can get mortgage only in case if they're working. But in our case, we didn't have women working because they had kids. And it's our biggest achievement that we could get um, six apartments for these women who are not working, who have kids, and who needed a place to live. And unfortunately, with a complicated situation in Central Asia, for example, in Uzbekistan, we have the case when people just buy tickets and go somewhere just because they want to escape from discrimination, violence, and etc. In 2020, we have helped to return 103 women who have escaped from Uzbekistan in order to escape from violence, but in Russia they also faced a violent behavior. And out of that 103 women, 32 of them have applied for divorce.
Анализ причин обращения в наш центр.
And the analysis of this application to the center, the main reason is it doesn't matter if they have migrated together or one by one. The biggest reason is to earn some money when they go to as a migrant abroad. The biggest reason is to earn money, and the second reason is that they don't see future for their kids here. And unfortunately, when women are being migrated, they face a lot of challenges, including the violence, not only home-based violence, domestic violence, but also violence from employer, and they become the victims of home-based uh, violence, and very usually they also face human trafficking. It's always been understood that now he is the because of him they go to migration, but there they also are not better off. Often women are forced to often women are forced to take a train or plane to Russia because of the desperate situation at home, and often have to endure even greater hardship and violence from far home. And when she returns, she's stigmatized in her own society. And I would like to give you the primitive case that usually happens with the what that we are having in Uzbekistan. Malika, 19 years old. She got married. She got married when she was 19 years old. After several months, her husband went to be a migrant abroad. He came back after 8 months. He was in Uzbekistan for 3 more months and again left to abroad. After his visits, Malika realized that she's pregnant. Then she had a lot of problems. In-laws started humiliating them. Then very often, very often, we often have the situation when girls without um, when girls are not being able to stand this humiliation anymore, and they leave, um, but at the same time they cannot really leave and come back to their parents. They go to their husbands there. The ladies live with her husband, and then usually they don't have proper living conditions. They have little baby, and the situation becomes even worse. And then husband decides to divorce, and then uh, sometimes men divorces, and sometimes they leave. The husbands leave and the girl stays with some other friends, and then she got into the sexual exploitations. We have so many problems lined up and overlapping each one on each. And very often when man comes back to Uzbekistan, he says that his wife has cheated him, and they always find someone who is
Думать самим, каждым из нас,
who is guilty except the girl. Everyone is guilty. Like the biggest guilt is the girl, but no one except the girl. So the case is so complicated. It overlaps with whole bunch of problems, and it's very hard to solve later on. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to have this question in the group. What
меры необходимы для
what
реагирования
are the measures that can be
сексуального и гендерного насилия? Какие меры можно предпринимать всем сторонам, как госорганам, ННО, так и
я сейчас
международникам?
вопрос скину в чат, и я бы хотела,
so
чтобы
we will
мы
write it in the chat. What measures are needed and necessary to respond to the needs of victims of sexual violence and gender-based violence among migrant communities in destination countries, and what kind of security response shall be developed? So how can we understand the behavioral index of your husband? What kind of activities and measures can be taken and needed? Thank you very much, dear participants. Also, I would like to mention that
ведении шелтера, и она является членом Национальной комиссии по противодействию торговле
so
людьми.
Miss Sharifa Kamalova, she is a member of the Center for Combating Human Trafficking.
Если у участников
Do we have any questions? So you can ask Miss Sharifa Kamalova any questions. Do we have any questions now? If we have questions, we would like to have them in the chat. Looking at the timing, I can say that we are up now. We should finish, but I would like to do the final questioning. Please, can you put the final questions?
Yes.
The final poll.
that the gender-based violence among
About
migrants
how optimistic the gender-based violence.
Насколько вы оптимистичны, что гендерное
So the
насилие
question is, how optimistic are you that gender-based violence in migrant societies can be eliminated completely? So the questions are, I'm very optimistic, not too much optimistic, and I'm pessimistic.
пессимистично?
When it comes to pessimistic, it means that all the efforts that we are doing are worthless.
Большое спасибо. Предлагаю
Thank you very much for your responses.
нашему вопросу.
And
Это
let's move on with the next question, the last question.
Thank you, Anne. We can stop the poll. Больше всех вариантов вышел.
So as of now, we have not too optimistic at this point.
Я полностью разделяю ваше мнение, мнение большинства.
Thank you very much. I understand your point, and I have the same point. And Merim, can you please help us to moderate the chat? Yes.
Уже ответила то, что все вопросы, которые были.
Yes, I have said that all the questions. Microphone, please.
слышно? Уважаемые участники, вам слышно, Мерим?
I cannot hear anything. Dear participants, can you hear Merim?
Мерим, вас не слышно.
Merim, we cannot hear you.
Какие-то
Мерим, мы
технические
вас не слышим.
We have some technical issues.
No worries. I think we might not be able to hear Miriam right now, but since we are mindful of time, I can go ahead and ask the question that I see in the chat.
Yes, sure.
Okay. The question I see is coming from Olga, and they say, thank you to all the panelists for bringing up such an important topic today. What legal reform, public sensitization, and assistance programs are needed to address discrimination of women within labor migration processes?
Какие юридические реформы, программы помощи и общественные изменения нужны для того, чтобы предотвратить дискриминацию женщин в ходе процессов трудовой миграции? Уважаемые спикеры, кто-нибудь желает ответить на этот вопрос? Нина Борисовна, Ширина Авзаловна, Назифа Невзалиевна. Уважаемые спикеры, есть желающие ответить на этот вопрос?
Dear speakers, does anyone have a desire to answer to this question?
Нина Борисовна, может быть, вы поможете?
Nina Borisovna, would you like to answer this question? I'm more curious about the descending country, the departing country, or destination country. You know, we lobby that the migrant females and migrants overall, they would be able to get the help, assistance from the shelters, the state shelters. And this is one of the most important factors in order to help women to prevent the situation of violence. And at the same time, during the lockdown, we have the work with the migration police, so they would not be deported from Kazakhstan, and they will have the opportunity to get help from Kazakhstan as much as possible. Thank you very much, Miss Nina. I know that the project coordinator Ellie Valentine in Central Asia also would like to add some words. Yeah.
Ellie, would you like to say a couple of words to the participants or questions?
Ellie, if you would like to speak, please unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Возможно, у Эли какие-то технические сложности.
It seems like Ellie has some technical problems. Merin, do we have more questions in the chat? Actually, no, we don't have any other questions in the chat. I would like to add to Nina Kasyuk's words about the receiving country. We are the country of departure. I think that we, as a country of departure, we should work on the lowest levels with the females who are the potential migrants, especially when it comes to the rural women. We should explain them what if they will face some difficulties, where shall they address, because very often we have the repetition of the situations when we have this problems happening over and over again, when the violence is on a repeated basis. And very often it is all about the rural areas where the main activity of because most of the migrants are from rural areas. And we believe that unfortunately rural areas are the most vulnerable to migration. And first of all, I would like to say that it's rural from vulnerable areas, rural areas, and second are the youth, where the illegal migration, the illegal migration takes place because very often youth has their optimistic approach. They just run away thinking that migration will bring them money and status, and they just follow the words of someone whom they should not really trust and follow. I also would like to add something.
Назифа, сейчас секундочку к обращению к
Nazifa, there is one more request to the speakers. I would like to ask everyone to share their names, name of the organization, and emails for networking. So, Miss Nazifa, I'm giving you the final word. Taking this opportunity into account, I would like to say that we need to work not only at the destination country, but not in the departing country, but also at the destination country. Look, when we talk about the shelters, our rural women don't know about the shelters that we have, so we should lobby the shelters. And when the road will be open, when the roads will be open, when the borders will be open, the migration will start again. And at the same time, we should not limit the migration, but we should prevent from it to be violent. And we should talk about shelters. And also, I would like to talk about HIV infection. Unfortunately, maybe this is our passivity. Maybe we should have more seminars, training, and etc. But we should keep informing people about the HIV spread and shelters. I would like to thank all the participants and speakers for today's discussion.
Прошу прощения, с одной стороны, с другой стороны.
I would like to beg my pardon for being off the timing.
Действительно, потому что когда мы говорим о гендерном насилии и миграции, мы думаем,
and when we talk about the gender-based violence and sexual exploitation, there are a lot of other side aspects that we also need to keep an eye on. We should discuss it, we should take the measures, and I kindly ask you to take the actions, and I hope that we can finish our discussion on Microsoft Teams platform, and today's presentations will be sent to you. And if
Okay. Nodira, are you done, or do you have any more closing words?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the Evidence to Action Summit and today's session. Please do join us at the other sessions in the summit. Right after this session, there will be a fireside chat titled The Gender Dynamics of Human Trafficking, a Study in Cambodia, Myanmar, and Thailand, and it will take place in about 9 minutes, so 3:30 p.m. Bangkok time, which is GMT +7. If you are interested in learning more about gender dynamics, please join that session. And as always, links to the Zoom are available in the Microsoft Teams and in your email. Please, as Nodira mentioned, continue the conversation in the conference community. Thank you so much for your participation today, and we sincerely apologize for the technical difficulties today. We really, really appreciate your patience. And to the speakers and moderators, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. Thank you again, everyone, and we will talk to you soon in the other sessions. Have a good day.
Всем хорошего дня. Спасибо огромное. Хорошего дня. Всего доброго.
Have a good day. Have a good day. See you soon. Bye-bye.